Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's featured Reddit stories are from IDon'tWorkHereLady. Story 1 is by Darth Algae. The best employee a cruise line never had. We boarded a 7-day Carnival cruise to Alaska. We were in our cabin for a total of 5 minutes. Plenty of time for me to be out of my clothes, ready to take a day 1 nap. For some reason, I'm unable to fall asleep trying to nap at home, but I can on a ship, so I look forward to boarding with great anticipation when the first knock on the door occurred. Expecting it to be the cabin steward and really having no modesty left when it comes to crew members, I answered the door in my sleep t-shirt and underwear. It was our elderly cabin neighbors from right next door. They had noticed that my wife was on the recently released Carnival Hub mobile app and were talking about it when we arrived at our respective cabin doors together. They were both unfamiliar with it, but were curious and wondering if I thought it was necessary for them to download and have it. I assured them that they would indeed enjoy having it as opposed to not having it, but as I was not dressed, I would ask my wife to assist them. She jumped at the chance. As it turns out, they were part of a large group of traveling seniors, 80+ years old, that had decided to take this cruise to Alaska coincidentally with us. Napping had been out of the question that afternoon because word got out among that group and there had been a steady pace of knocking at the cabin door now. My wife had helped no fewer than a dozen elderly couples access their app stores, downloading the Hub app, install it for them, explain the app with tutorials on their phones, help them with dining reservations and the like. She has explained their sail and sign room key cards, most first-time cruisers but not all, guest services, excursions, you name it. She even went up a few decks to help one couple with their room safe. I've never seen her happier on a cruise, and that's awesome. My wife is the best employee Carnival never had. We're starting it off today with one of those feel-good stories that I know some of you like. There's actually a few of those in here today. You know what's interesting is being part of the age group that's at like the technological boundary. People who are in their 80s and above generally don't know how to use technology, and a lot of them are kind of unwilling to learn, or it just confuses them, because they're part of an entirely different generation. Then there's people like my parents who were in their 70s roughly, and they had to learn the technology to an extent. And then people younger than them, like me, know technology fairly well. And then people who are 10 to 20 years younger than me are going to be so integrated with technology, it's going to be like second nature to them. It makes me wonder how far this goes. Some of the older age groups were convinced that we would never ever be even using calculators in classrooms at school in mathematics classes. They had tables and books, and you had to look at the tables, and that was their way of finding the measurements for like sine, cosine, and tangent, for example. Now you just use a calculator for it, and why wouldn't you? When technology advances, you need to take advantage of it, or you get left behind. Down in the comments were 2 more nice stories that I wanted to share. First, by Mag Dovas. My much younger brothers are annoying. They're also IT geniuses. When the younger one was about 8, we took a last-minute holiday on February half-term to somewhere warm that was mainly populated by elderly people. Got there and the boys pulled out their newfangled iPads and logged onto the Wi-Fi. An older lady noticed them and asked how they got on the internet. My brothers tried to explain and then basically went, "Give it here, we'll sort it." She was delighted and told her friends, who then asked for help. And so my brothers got spoiled rotten by a bunch of adopted grandparents for a week, in return for basic IT services. Many years later, they're both working in IT doing stuff I'd tell you about, but I don't understand half of what they say about work. And one of those ladies has a granddaughter who's going to be my sister-in-law. This is how friendships and sometimes even marriages get formed, apparently. Underneath that by Karitsakip. Love helping old ladies. The cute ones are adorably cute. Ignore the Karens. Doesn't even have to be tech stuff. Years ago, I was seated towards the back of a plane with maybe a group of 7 old ladies in the seats behind me. They were doing the loud whispers, clearly wanted to shout, but were decently embarrassed about being old lady loud. They spoke their country's language. I definitely looked like a foreigner to them, but I understood them. Then I heard one say her ears hurt from the pressure. Other ladies started teaching her to do yawn or do chewing motions. First old lady said doesn't work. Ears are starting to hurt more. Then 2 more ladies said their ears were starting to hurt too. That's when I stood and taught them to pinch their noses but keep mouths closed and blow. Pop the pressure right out of the ears. That's how to depressurize when scuba diving works in the air too. They were ecstatic and looked like toddlers who tasted their first chocolate bar. Just for the record, somebody did correct them. It's not depressurizing, it's called equalizing when you scuba dive. But we understand what they mean when they say depressurize. I've never been scuba diving, but I used to like just diving, and it would always make my ears ache and ring. And it definitely got worse with age, as everything seems to. Our next story is by Costco. If you don't work here, then tell me where you do work so I can get you fired. Last week or so, I was doing a supply run at a local Costco for our food truck, and I still had my hat and hairnet on since I was returning to the truck with a rather small haul. It was a busy day, and I picked what turned out to be the slowest line. And instead of sitting there watching old folks count out change, I decided to grab a hot dog and soda. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes, in which time the first 3 old folks only just finished paying, for the next to scan through and take forever. So this lady, who's just behind me where I left my cart for less than 5 minutes, starts going off. Do you work here? Why would you just go off like that and leave your cart in line? I just sort of shrug it off, since the line is basically still not moving. She throws in it must be nice to have all the time in the world to do whatever you want. I thought she must have been joking, surely, and I just missed it, so I tried to joke back. I'm sure you could grab a hot dog too. This is probably the slowest line here. Humor was apparently the exact wrong response because this woman immediately gets irate and spits. Does your supervisor know you were holding up the line? What kind of unprofessional jerk just wanders off and leaves their cart sitting in line? I look at this lady like she's speaking ancient Egyptian. The line hasn't even moved in the time it took me to hit the food court, some 10 cart lengths away from this sedentary till. There was still an entire person with full cart in front who themselves doesn't yet have the room to start unloading onto the checkout belt. Finally, I hit her with a, "No, I don't work here, lady," to which she flippantly replies, "Of course not. The employees here aren't jerks who would do such a stupid, thoughtless thing and hold up the line for their own selfishness." By now, the cashier has started taking notice, as well as a bagger, since watching this lady make a scene is probably more entertaining than yet another old person counting out exact change. I'm still dumbfounded. Is this lady dense? The line hasn't moved at all. But before I can point that fact out to her, she unloads with a, "Where do you work? I want to tell your boss how much of a jerk you are in public. Whoever you work for, you're making them look bad." What even the heck? Obviously not if you can't tell who I even work for, regardless of whatever I might have done. Her BS continues, and I just try to ignore it, but it's literally darn near half an hour of this crap as we wait to be checked out. I only have 2 large items in the cart, so it's a quick scan and card to pay. Not even 3 minutes next to the 30 that the 2 ahead took. But she crowns off with a, "Why would you do such an a-hole thing, huh? Why do you do such inconsiderate things?" This BS has been going on so long that I've basically had time to shower thought up the perfect clapback. So why not? I just lean over the front of her cart, gripping it tightly, put the smuggest, most a-hole look on my face that I can twist up and say, "Just to ruin your day, Karen. I got out of bed today and was just waiting for an opportunity to make you in particular miserable." Before she can process that, I grab my cart and start rolling off, watching her go beet red in the face with pure, unadulterated rage. I basically said exactly what that kind of person feels. I confirmed it without a hint of sarcasm in my tone that my goal in life was to make her miserable. But I guess being right didn't satisfy her like she wanted. The cashier and bagger looked like they were both holding back laughter, and I looked over my shoulder to watch her silent meltdown. But the only thing she could muster was yelling "a-hole" at me, to which I dropped a quick, "Up yours, Karen," and rolled off like a smug jerk, knowing I'd probably live rent-free in this woman's head for a good while. As someone who works in food service, it was super cathartic to get to clap back consequence-free. Alright guys, who is in the wrong here? This isn't an Am I the A-hole post, this is just I don't work here lady. But I'm still curious what you guys think on this one. Is it a jerk thing for somebody to leave their cart and go get something if the line hasn't moved at all by the time they return? Is the lady wrong for going off on them for going to get a hot dog while everybody else is standing in line? Our last story today is by latifundistas. Idiot middle-aged people in a bar where the staff don't wear uniforms. So I was at a bar where, like most small-town bars, the staff wear whatever, their own clothes. This foretop of 50-somethings was sat at a table adjacent to the door to the smoking patio. It was my Friday. I had just got paid and got a weed vape, so I was enjoying myself going out to the patio to get baked in between shots. The table of older people kept looking at me while I walked past them like they're expecting me to talk to them or something. The funny thing is, I'm actually a waiter, but not here. After my third vape break, I come back in and one of the women at the table grabs my arm and starts to berate me for keeping walking past them and not giving them any service. I laughed and said, I don't work here. You haven't noticed me 10 feet away drinking liquor for the past 20 minutes? And one of the whipped husbands goes, well, can you go get us someone who can help us? I'm 5 shots deep and stoned as F at this point, and I'm sure as F not a waiter, because I'm passionate about customer service, so I just chuckled and said, no, I'm not going to do that, and walked away. They got so mad, they left, still having made zero effort to interact with any actual staff. I got trashed, and the bartender got a huge tip. All in all, I think everyone came out the winner here. Clearly not the middle-aged people. All in all, you think everyone came out the winner here? Everyone. No. The middle-aged people that grabbed your arm were obviously in the wrong here. They didn't know you didn't work there. But in a place like this where people wear casual clothes to work, unless they have an apron or a name tag or a pad of paper or something that indicates they work there, most people are going to assume that somebody that keeps going by them works there. So it's not unreasonable for them to assume you work there, but it is unreasonable for them to grab at somebody they don't know and berate them for going outside and not serving them. And then on top of that, when you tell them you don't work there, they want you to go get somebody who can help them. Why don't they get up and go find somebody who can help them? That's just absurd. But no, not everyone came out the winner here. That's for sure too. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a crisp day.